What's up, Drop Pod listeners? As always, you can listen to the Drop Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Pods. We're now also on Apple Music, Audible, and Pandora. New episodes are dropping every Wednesday. You can also find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on all of our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This episode is brought to you by the Law Office of Mallon and Tranger. Tom Mallon and Randy Tranger are board-certified trial attorneys who share more than 40 years of legal experience. They specialize in personal injury matters, workers' compensation cases, and criminal and municipal defense. As certified trial attorneys, they've recovered millions of dollars on behalf of people injured in accidents and employees injured at work. They have offices conveniently located in Freehold and Point Pleasant. For skilled and personalized legal representation, call Mallon and Tranger at 732-780-0230 or check out their website at tmallonlaw.com. Not only are they good people, they're good golfers too. That was a terrible clap by me.
At least we know where it is.
Yeah, terrible clap. I barely hit my hand. This is the Drop Podcast, where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Kulot.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. March Madness in full swing. I mean, the basketball has been out of control. What great games we've had. But we're going to focus on our March Madness, which has been also hot. Got to make sure you're staying up on Thursdays when we're dropping those matchups, which has been a lot of fun to see everyone's involvement. We're coming off 3 big weeks here. We had Dan Hicks on 2 weeks ago, Dottie Pepper on 2 weeks ago, and Stu Hagestad last week. 3 amazing interviews. If you did not listen to the last 3 weeks, make sure you go back and listen. The shows are great. The interviews are hot. It is great content that I think that we're putting out there. But we're coming back to our New Jersey roots here. We're getting off our little national series, which we've had, and coming back to New Jersey with an interview today with Ryan McCormick. Ryan went to Mater Dei. He helped them win their first sectional title in school history, then moved on to St. John's. His father's a longtime pro at Suburban Golf Club up in Union. He's currently playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. Mike, another great dude that we had on that we could just chat with and just have a conversation with. We continue to say it. Make sure you stay to listen to Ryan later in the show.
Yeah, real quick, I think it's important for the audience to hear Ryan's story about when he played at Charleston, about his course record. So if not for anything, make sure you stay tuned to his story about when he shot an unbelievable number at Charleston and the feedback he got. It's a must-listen-to story, no questions asked.
Mike, let's jump into our March Madness brackets. We're into our second round. We got an Elite Eight coming out of the Sweet 16. We got some controversy. We got some upsets. We got some dark horses. We got some big wins. Let's talk about it. What are your thoughts coming out of the Sweet 16 into this Elite Eight here?
So let's start in the North because that's what came out on Thursday, and that's kind of what was hot. And again, we continue to say this, but thank you again to the audience for voting, for viewing it, for following along, because I thought the numbers were outstanding last week. Then I saw the numbers on Thursday. They were even better. And then even scarier were how good the numbers were on Friday. So not only are we translating, views into votes, but even the golf courses in New Jersey, the audience, the followers, everybody sharing it to get their votes in is unbelievable. So when we start in the North, I know you and I talked heavily last week about our championship matchup. Because I had Nishanik winning the whole thing. You had Ballamor, and it just so happened that was the next round's matchup. So looking at those two matchups, more or less, or those two golf courses, it was as tight as tight can get. It was back and forth the entire voting thing. And after nearly almost over 250 votes. Neshannock Valley won by 9 votes. Basically accumulating 52% of the votes compared to Ballyowen's 48. And I think I know the answer as to why Neshannock won over Ballyowen. And what I figured out is Neshannock Valley shared it on their Instagram. So what I said is I think that the way Neshannock's people came out and shared everything truly ended up being the difference, because I do know that we have a huge contingency of followers that are in that Northwest region. And like anything, the more that you share it with your people, the more that the votes come out. And when it's as close as it was in that matchup, you would have benefited hugely if Ballyowen was able to share the post on their own story.
I think that just gets more eyes on it, if they share it. Last week I talked maybe about setting up some burner accounts. I did not do that. I stayed true. But to win that closely, when I voted, Ballyowen was up. I think when I voted, it was like 64% to 36% or whatever the opposite of that is. And I was like, okay, Ballyowen's, not running away with it, but like felt pretty decent about it. And then for it to flip like that, and I didn't vote right away either. I voted like I think you posted it at noon. I think we posted it, and I didn't vote until nighttime. Like I was laying in bed when I voted. So it was a, it wasn't like I voted early and it was up there.
Which to your point was, when I was watching it the entire afternoon, it was a runaway. It wasn't even close. It was like Ballyowen by 30, Ballyowen by 40. And then once, like I said, that their people started sharing it, it was like, wow, okay, now it was like 10 in a row. And then it turned into like 15. And then you toss in a couple Ballyowens. And then another 15 in a row. Before you know it, they made up so much ground in Neshannock Valley's people sharing the post, which, listen, I love the fact that people are getting involved. They're sharing it. It's not only the golf courses that you can see clearly want to win. So Neshannock did hold up its end, thankfully for me, and win by 9 votes. And then the other 3 winners, which were, relatively...
Mike, I'm going to cut you off there because I want to say this. I don't know what you think of this. You haven't played Neshannock, correct? So I have. Not all 27, but I played 18. I've only played it once. But I've only played Ballyowen once as well. And while Neshannock won, that's great, you're not convincing me that Ballyowen's not a nicer course. Again, it's nice that they showed out, the people for Neshannock. They like their course. I'm not saying Neshannock's a dog track compared to it. It is, if this was horse racing, Ballyowen wins by half a length or something like that. It's a close race, but I think the more eyes got to Neshannock, so more people were able to vote Neshannock. And I don't know if that's the same for Ballyowen. Because again, I don't think you're going to convince me that it's a nicer course. And I know how highly you think of Ballyowen as well.
Yeah, and I completely agree that getting the assist from their people really ends up being the game changer in a lot of this. Because I think if you and I think back to the first round matchups, we both think more highly of Rock Spring than Architects, but Architects people showed out in a larger number, in a larger volume, which allowed Architects to move on. And I think that's really, as we've said many times, it's not what we think is the number one, but it's really what the audience is now voting.
Right. And I will say, when we did our brackets, I did it based on, I took that less into consideration and more, I've played both. Ballyowen's the nicer course, so I had Ballyowen on. And I think you took it more as, there's a lot of people listening in that Neshannock area or that like Neshannock. So I think that's why you took Neshannock. Again, never having played it, I think you looked at the analytics behind it, and that's your victory there. I want to ask you, because I had a friend who we were going back and forth with, and a bunch of courses he didn't vote for because he's never played the other course. How should the audience vote on those? Should they not vote? He just laid out on them. He's like, well, I've never played. I forget which ones he has played and hasn't played, but like he's like, I've never played Ballamor, so I voted for Neshannock. So how can you vote for one when you haven't played the other? So what do you think? What are your
that's a great.
there?
Hey, listen, that's a great point. And I know, and I'll be honest with you. You know what some people had said to me is they voted for the better picture. So ultimately, like, is there a right answer? Probably not. Like, if you see the picture, you like it. No offense, I thought Bally's picture was phenomenal. If I didn't know anything about the golf course, I see that picture and I'm like, who doesn't want to go play there? Right. And I think that's maybe how some people ended up voting if they decided to vote. But again, I guess my recommendation would be like, if you don't know, bow out, to be fair. But from a numbers perspective, like the guy that I am, I'd say click a button. But yes, that is a tough thing. But yes, when it comes to the analytics, I 100% play the numbers, no doubt about it. To me, there was no other way for me to do it because I've never played Neshannock. I've played Bally's 3 different times, and it's absolutely a gem. So I know people argue with me on Instagram about it. Oh, it's not that good. The optics, the aesthetics, like it's not. That's fine. I absolutely loved it the 3 times I played. So to each their own. Right. So I guess wrapping up the North, the other runaway in the North, well, I should say the only runaway in the North was Berkshire Valley, won 75% to 25% over Mountain View. Wasn't close. I don't know the contingency that we have at Berkshire Valley. I don't, but they just dominated Mountain View. And then the other
Were there a lot of votes for that one?
Yeah, nearly 230-ish.
Okay.
So it was just a runaway. I guess everybody just voted Berkshire Valley. And the crazy thing is, Mountain View's people shared the post. So I guess in one theory it works, and in the other theory it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
In the other matchup, Royce Brook did defeat Galloping Hill only by 18 votes. So that was another tight one, 54% to 46%. And then I think the other people wanted to put an asterisk on it, but the other one, Skyway, did defeat Architects, 55% to 45%. And I know that there was a lot of comments flying around on Instagram again saying, how does a 9-hole golf course go out and defeat the 18-hole golf course? And I think the one thing, like you and I had a conversation off the podcast about, is that I think where Skyway is, the views it has, is a major draw to a lot of people, as it is for you and I. And I think that's ultimately maybe why Skyway continues to advance.
When we talked off the pod, I made the point, Mike, I think that, there's some 9-hole places, or when you think of a 9-hole place, you don't necessarily think of it being a quote-unquote real golf course. We talked about when we did our 21 counties, 21 courses, there's that 9-hole down in Burlington County or wherever it was. Cumberland County. And it's not a real golf course. It's shorter. It doesn't have that real golf course feel to it. There's other par 3 courses, in Monmouth County. Those aren't. You can't have a 400-yard par 5 and be considered a real golf course, or the course is tipped out at 2,100 yards on a par 3. That to me doesn't make it a real course. But I think the opposite is true, or I think that holds true for a course like Skyway. Skyway, from the tips, is the course and the rating and slope, 35.7 rating, 142 slope. Again, that's a real course number, and the total yardage from the tips is 3,300. So if you double that, 6,600 is shorter, but that's a real 18-hole course. in my opinion. So I would consider Skyway a real 9 holes when you compare it to other courses. I think just play it twice. There's a course like Tom's River Country Club is only 9 holes, but you play one tee box the first 9, and you play a different tee box the second 9. There's a par 3 there that, like, the first time around, the one tee box you play, it's like 142, maybe something 140 something, and then the next time around's 200 plus. So you have variations there. I don't know. I don't think Skyway has that, but I don't know that to be true. Again, it just, to me, seems like it's more of a real golf course that you would just play twice, as opposed to other par 3s. So just saying no par 3s, I don't think you could take that as I don't think you can just broadcast no par 3s.
Yeah, so I guess moving on, the next round matchups will be Skyway versus Berkshire Valley, and then it'll be Royce Brook versus Neshannock Valley. And, that the North will come out on Thursday at noon like they've been. And then let's kind of slide down to the South here.
Do you know anything about Royce Brook, by the way?
I don't.
Yeah,
I know they shared it. All right, so as we slide down to the South, again, as I mentioned at the top, I thought Thursday was amazing in terms of the views and the votes. It far exceeded my expectations on Friday. So in the first round, or in the top matchup, it was Seaview Bay versus Hominy Hill. And you want to talk about a bloodbath? It was not even close. Seaview Bay alone got over 205 votes. They dominated Hominy Hill 76% to 24%. It was not basically every 4 votes, over 3 of them went to Seaview Bay. Again, a huge credit to those guys out there that shared it. There were multiple people.
I was just going to say, they shared it on their golf course account, on their hotel account, and their pro shared it as well on his account. So they shared it at least 3 times from like the resort itself. So it got a lot of eyes.
Lots of eyes. And it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, like we've been saying, if you want your track to win, you gotta push it out there to your people.
And to be fair, I don't know if Monmouth County Golf has an Instagram or has even seen it or has reposted or shared.
So it's funny you say that. I was DMing with them. They do have a Parks County system, Instagram, whatever you want to call it. And I was informed that they are not allowed to share anything outside of their own posts. So they weren't able to even do it. Or share it to the people that follow them. And then underneath them, the next matchup was Harbor Pines versus Running Deer. A close matchup, but Running Deer won 56% to 44%. Again, credit to Running Deer's people, the golf course. They all shared it. They all voted. So they won, pretty handily. In the next matchup, it was Cape May National versus Ramblewood. And another bloodbath, because Cape May National, again, this goes against what we've been saying, did not share it. Nobody shared it. They dominated 69% to 31%. Cape May National clearing just over 200 votes. Wasn't close. Was not close for Cape May National on a runaway there. And then the bottom matchup was Ballamor versus Blue Heron Pines, 2 South Jersey golf courses. And Ballamor dominated 65% to 35%. And I really can't say anything negative there because both the contingencies on the Blue Heron Pine side, the Jaws Golf side, all shared it, as well as Ballamor's teaching professional there, the golf course, they all shared it. So it was like, a little bit of I'll match a little tit for tat type thing. But Ballamor's people came out winning 65% to 35%.
Now, you've played both courses, correct?
Correct.
I have not. To be fair, I've played neither of those courses. So Is that more telling? If all things are equal, if we're saying all things are equal, because everybody shared it, everybody saw it, like it got to various eyes, is that an outcome that you feel is just based on Ballamor is that much better or nicer than Blue Heron Pines? Again, not having played it, I don't think Blue Heron Pines is a slouch by any means. I've heard a lot of great things about it. But does that tell more about how much, and I know how much you like Ballamor, do you think that it's that much better or than Blue Heron Pines?
I do.
Okay.
And
again, not saying that Blue Heron Pines, like I'm not taking anything away from Blue Heron Pines. You can still be, as we talked with one of our guests, you can have a 42 average in high school golf and be a really nice high school golfer that takes nothing away from you. But the kid that shoots 39s all the time is a much better golfer. It's 3 strokes every round, but you extrapolate that to it's multiple shots all of the time. So,
and I think that's a great analogy because I loved Blue Heron Pines when I played there in the fall. I had nothing but phenomenal things to say about it. I just think if you were to play Ballamor, I think the views, I think the holes, I just think the overall body of work of Ballamor is a little nicer than Blue Heron Pines. No knock. If you ask me to go play Blue Heron Pines, I'll pack my bags and gladly go. But I don't know if it's that much of a difference in terms of 65 to 35 because that's a blowout to me. I would have guessed it was more like 55-45. That would have been my guess. But Ballamor finding a way to win.
Interesting. Well, that wraps up that. That's a good recap of those matchups. We got the North coming out on Thursday, which is tomorrow, and we got the South coming out on Friday, which is Friday, and we'll talk about our Elite Eight matchups and kind of preview our Final Four coming out. Mike, if I were to ask you, and I know you're still alive here, out of what we got left, who is your? I would assume you still like Neshannock in the North. And I assume you still like Ballamor in the South?
I do, and I guess if I constantly say, and I look at the numbers, Seaview Bay, I won't be surprised if it just continues to steamroll things because their people are phenomenal. They're active on Instagram. They share it. They repost it. They get votes out. So their numbers are very, very impressive. I can't lie. I don't know how Running Deer beats them. I don't. So I think the idea to seeing Seaview Bay play Ballamor in that Final Four, I think would be a very, very interesting matchup because you have 2 great social media presences. I do.
Right.
And then when you think to the North, I know Skyway has been a little rumbling for people, but their people again come out and vote. So I guess I have a hard time not envisioning Skyway and Neshannock Valley in the top 2 in the North. I guess I just look at the numbers and find it hard to believe that Neshannock does not move on past them. But again, those would be my predictions as to who the Final Four is left.
Yeah, I also think Skyway is going to win and move on, and Neshannock the same way. Again, I find it tough if I'm taking the analytics out. I haven't played Skyway, but Neshannock is great as well. But then you put the analytics in, you're like, okay, that's going to be a victory. They show out. And the same way, Seaview Bay and Ballamor have both showed out. And I haven't played Ballamor, but you can't take away those courses. Those are 9.8, 9.7 right there. They're really good. All right, so that kind of wraps up our March Madness for this week. Again, keep coming out to vote. You guys are doing a great job with it. Love all the support. Keep it rolling. Mike, we did kind of staying on the same page here. You got out and got to play Ballamor this week. Talk to me about your time there. let's. I think this is going to be our first course rating, so we're going to do it live, and see how it goes. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so I decided to, put my rain boots on and truck out there this past weekend. I'm starting to get the itch to want to get out and play, and I knew the weather wasn't ideal, and I knew, Sunday really wasn't an option for me. So I kind of, I said, I'm going to go do it. So I packed my bags. I went down south. And I know I spoke highly of the place a few episodes ago. I know we just kind of hit on it real quickly here regarding Ballamor and Blue Heron Pines. But, again, it didn't disappoint me. It didn't. I understand that there was, top dressing on the greens, and there was some sand to get them ready for the season. But the greens still rolled. The course was, in very solid shape for the end of March. And I think one of the things that I recalled from when I played it a few years back about some of the tee shots, some of the views, the greens, just rekindled that fire about man, I thought this place was good, and it truly is that good. So I can't harp on this enough that if you're in that Egg Harbor Township area, I know there's a boatload of golf courses down there, but this needs to be one of those spots that you go hit up and you go play. Now, when it comes to the round, I didn't necessarily play very well, okay? I think my final score exactly was 41 on the front and 42 on the back for an 83. Conditions were tough, but as a competitive golfer, sometimes you don't get a choice to play in the beautiful 75 degrees in sun, and you got to trek it up and go play in those rainy conditions.
Right, and it was your first round of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. But
yeah.
I will say this. I'm not disappointed in how I hit the ball. I felt like I hit my driver relatively well. I felt like the irons were okay for first full round. The putting was a little difficult with the sand and trying to gauge everything, and then with the rainy conditions, that was a little difficult. But I know how we all are with excuses, leave them at the door, get your head together and find a way to two-putt. I did not find a way to two-putt often. I did it.
But that top dressing is, I'll let you use the excuse of the top dressing. The top dressing is always difficult, and I'd imagine even more with the rain. Sometimes it's rolling slower because it's collecting the sand. Sometimes it's going faster because it's skipping across like a rock on water. I think you're good with that as an excuse to have not. You probably had more three putts than you normally have.
Yeah, when I got there, I just jumped straight to the first tee. There was no practice. There was no rolling putts. It was let's just go, because I knew the weather wasn't nice. Hit the first two fairways, hit the first two greens, and I've two-putted the first two holes. So I knew from that point on, all right, it's going to be a long day on the greens, and it was. So, but I can't lie. I said to myself when I was out there, this is another place that I would love to come back to once the top dressing gets all gone and it's ready to roll, because some of the holes just stand out so much. The people were super nice. It has an unbelievable driving range in terms of a practice facility if you got there early. The putting green's a solid size, so you don't feel like you're on top of people when you're there. And the golf course, it's spread out. It's not like holes run parallel to each other. There's some distance between each holes. So there's times, now granted I was the only one on the golf course that day, but I can see that when other people are there, you may not feel like you're on top of others. So I loved it. I wish the conditions were better in terms of the weather, but you kind of put your head down and you go handle your business.
You and all of our followers talk so highly of it.
Yeah, and listen, right, they got really, when I look at the tee boxes that we play, there's three sets that we would typically play. You got the white tee boxes that still stretch out to nearly 6,300 yards, so a solid number for an average golfer. You got the blues that are, right there in the middle, just under 6,700, so it's a solid test. And if you're feeling real good about your game, you could head back to the championship tees that has a rating of 74.6. It stretches out to 7,098 yards. So when I played, it was wet. I said, I'm just playing the blues because I'll probably die if I try to really stretch it out.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah, so I played the blues, and no offense, it was still a challenge for me to get out there.
That's a big gap to not have another set of tees from 60. What'd you say, 67 to 71?
Basically, yeah.
400 yards is that's a big gap to not have a fourth set of tees.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some par fours from the blues when I would look at it that would be like 420-ish. But then if you went back and played the back tees, it stretched to nearly almost 450 yards, as well as some being like the ninth hole, for example. It says on the card it's 438, but if you go all the way to the back, it's 466, and that's a par four.
Yeah, that's a bear.
That's a bear.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially with no roll. That's a big, with having no roll, your entire round is going to be carry. To carry 7,100 it's a lot.
Yeah, in the rain on your first time out.
Yep.
I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I was a little smart enough here to know that, okay, you're not even going to touch those back tees.
So you want to rate this live?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's jump on. I'll do it for you because I know you're not on it. And I got the course rating up here, so I'll put your email address in. Just give me that. What's it? Big Hunk XO at AOL. Got it. Okay.
Beautifulface101 at gmail.com.
The course you played is Ballamor. Course conditions. So now we got, again, for those that need a reminder, we got course conditions, pace of play, course maintenance, difficulty, practice facilities, pro shop, food and beverage, accessibility/organization, on-course vibe, personal opinion. All of those are out of 10. There's 10 categories out of 10. I know my math when we did this was not good, but I think, again, we came up with something we both like, we both agree upon, that we think is consistent. So here we go. So course conditions, out of 10, you tell me.
Oh, man, I'd have to say an 8. Because the top dressing at the time I played it may have stopped it from being a 9. But I'm saying
I was just going to say this is tough because you get hit with the weather, the top dressing. So while you talk so highly of it, and it might be in your mind, it might be 90 plus. It might fall into that 80 round because of that condition.
Yeah, and I think to be fair to the audience, like that's how we have to rate it. I mean, we have to rate it based upon when we play it. We can't, because no offense, everybody could come back and say, well, if you played it on this day in August when I get it, but no offense, sure, yeah. This is the time I played it. If I come back, it may have a different rating, but as of, this past weekend, this is where I'm at.
And I'll tell you what, hopefully we'll get back there and it'll be immaculate, and then we'll give you an average of those two. And now we got a better gap. So you got 8 for course conditions. Pace of play. Was it difficult out there for you to get around with all the people?
Being the only guy out there, if I'm going to continue the trend of I have to rate it about when I was just there, it's got to be a 10. I was the only maniac out there.
How was the course maintenance?
Again, the weather was a tough thing, so the bunkers weren't really raked. People were doing maintenance on the golf course when I was out there. Again, I'll have to toss that an 8 in there as well, because I'm sure that there's room for improvement in terms of like if you found a better, nicer day.
Right. Those are already pretty high. Like if I'm playing a course, I'm thinking about a place. I'm probably going lower based on those, but that could be just me. Difficulty.
I got to throw that I got to put that as a 9. I do. I know the numbers right now are trending on a high way. But I think when I think about the golf course specifically and the conditions, it wasn't easy. It wasn't.
I would think that it was difficult. How do I want to word this? Is it always a 9, or did the rain make it more difficult, or did you kind of counter it because usually you would play, if it was bright, sunny, 70 degrees, you'd play the championships, so you moved it up, so kind of counterbalance.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head right there with that.
Okay. Practice facilities?
See, like this is where I didn't take advantage of them, and I wasn't because the conditions. So to me, I'm going to put that as a 7. I guess I'd like to really, maybe if we go back, I could see it firsthand, and that number may change. But just from the views of it, the range looked really nice. I saw the putting green, but to actually use it, I didn't. So to me, I'm just going to throw that as 7.
Okay. Pro shop?
See, I was in the pro shop not a very long time. It wasn't anything that kind of blew me away. I didn't look at much stuff in there. So to me, like 6. It was small, on the smaller side. Nothing when I walked in like kind of drew my eye. So I'm going to toss that a 6 there.
Okay. Again, I think the same thing for this one. Might, just because I already know a little bit about the round. Food and beverage, the 19th hole, the halfway house, the cart person.
Yeah, I can't even give. I mean, if you want to just put 5 on it, just to say it's like the baseline 0, 5 numbers, like bottom it. I guess I throw it a 5, but.
Yeah, I mean, how can
they had a halfway house out there. I saw it. Clearly, it wasn't going to be accessible. They had a beautiful outdoor area where you could sit down out on the patio and watch the 18th hole if you were to sit out there. So they have the amenities. I just wasn't taking advantage of them. So without saying or taking, I just give it a 5 because it's there. I saw them,
right,
but I didn't.
So for me, I like 5, and I think that we're going to get people talking about this because I like putting 5 there. You saw that it's there. You weren't able to / didn't take advantage / whatever other, it was raining, so it wasn't open or whatever the case was. It's the off season, so nobody's, the halfway house isn't open. I get that. But you saw them, so they have them. So I don't want to give it a 0 or not applicable because they have them. I like 5 there. I think that's a good justification for, again, wasn't able to this time. Accessibility / organization.
I would give that an 8. I mean, listen, and it's funny, that may seem high to some people, but when I was that one maniac that showed up, there was a cart out there for me. As soon as I paid, I was able to jump in my cart and go. In terms of getting a tee time, I looked online, went right to their website. Clearly there was many tee times available because it was raining, but it was there, all nicely done. I could have clicked a few things. I can't lie. I even called ahead of time just to confirm I could get in there, and the course was open. Someone picked up the phone. They answered the phone. So to me, I don't know much more you could really ask for. So to me, I give it an 8.
On-course vibe?
Well, listen, I was the only one out there. I got to talk to myself. No one interrupted me when I talked. No one yelled at me if I said a bad word. So, I mean, the vibe was good. I mean, I think maybe it would have been nice to have somebody else at times to say, nice 3-putt or nice tee shot. So I guess I'll toss that a 9. The only missing factor was I didn't have anybody.
Right. Are you listening to music out there?
No.
When you're playing, are you not by yourself?
No. Nope.
Are you anti-music on the golf course?
Depends on my mood and in terms of what the match is. If we're playing for a decent amount of money, then I don't want any music on because I want to take your money. If it's more of a social scene and we're having a few drinks while we play, then yeah, of course, throw some tunes on.
I think we're going to come back to that topic. And then overall, what's your personal opinion of this place?
I got to give it a 9. Obviously, I spoke very highly about it. Again, I think the one thing, the 10s are in my eyes will be very hard. I know the audience knows this. I can be a little picky with things at times, and I think there is room for improvement. So to me, to get that perfect score, every duck needs to be in a row. I gotta love the vibe from the minute I get out of my car, to the practice facility, to the putting green, to the to the pro shop, to the first tee. I get all that, then to me it could be a perfect score. But for what I saw and the conditions I saw it, I give it a 9. I have no idea what all that adds up to. You would have that better than I would, but I don't know.
I would, and I think my math is correct on this one. Last thing, any additional notes? Anything you'd like to add here?
Yes, it's a must-hit spot for anybody in the Atlantic City, South Jersey, Long Beach Island, Egg Harbor Township area. It's a must-hit spot.
How far would you travel? Would you say to travel?
I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Sussex County, something?
Listen, if you're taking no, that's too far of a hike. I do. Okay. I think if you're an hour and 15 minutes, and you're looking to go play a quality golf course, like an hour 15, I would say pack your bags up and you won't be disappointed. What was my total?
Lower than you think.
The conditions weren't ideal.
I just did it quickly. I think you're at a 79.
All right. I think let's just go. You got the numbers on your sheet there?
Why didn't this add up correctly?
I'm going to add them up on my end to see how your math is.
79.
There you go. 8, 10, 8, 9, 7, 6, 5, 8, 9, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it gets hit from, the pro shop probably isn't season ready because it's preseason, so they might still be unloading stuff or whatever. Food and beverage not open, so those are your two lowest ones. I think on the flip side, though, some of them are a little higher. Like pace of play might not be a 10 all the time. If you look at what was another one I thought about? Like on-course vibe being a 9. I think that's a good, that's you doing, you being you. Maybe it's a little different if there is pace of play problems, if you're paired up with someone who you don't like. So, but then on the flip side, like food and beverage is low, like those other ones are low. So yeah, I think that's a good estimate for what you played.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I know people may say it's 79. It's way better than that. Listen, I don't disagree with you, but the time and the situation I played it in, I have to be fair to the system, and I'm grading it on the time that I was there. And like you said, some may be higher than others. Maybe the pro shop ends up being higher. Maybe the 19th hole ends up being higher. But maybe the pace of play ends up being lower. And I guess as we continue down this ratings of the golf courses, it may turn out that I was too harsh. Maybe I was too kind. And maybe it just sets the bar.
We're going with this for this year. The 2023 January 1 to December 31st, we're using this rating. If in December we want to come up with a different rating or we find that we need to change it, then we'll change it for next year. But this is what we're rolling with for this year. Mike, you said you got a golf cart.
I did get a golf cart.
How was it?
I know you are so big on these golf carts, but to me, it got me from point A, it got me to point B. It did have the GPS in the cart.
Excellent. What was the cup holder situation like?
Enough for me, maybe not enough for you. It did have a clippable cover on the back, so if it stopped raining for a 5-minute stretch, I was able to clip it back on there, and it was easy to pull off.
That's good. Big.
I think it was feasible if you and I both sat in it. We'd have no issues. You may just dominate the cup holder situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was solid. It was solid. I can't complain about it.
Good. I like to hear that.
It's a great golf course. You'll love it when you get down there.
I'm really looking forward to it. I really, really am. There's some places I'm looking forward to more than others, and that's definitely one of them that I'm like, this season might be a failure if I don't get down there. That's one of those that I'd put in that category with Skyway and Rock Springs for us.
All right, Rye. I got to kind of get going here, but I do want you to share with the audience where you're off to for spring break, and have them hear some of the places that you're playing and maybe even make some recommendations. So why don't I'll toss this over to you. You knock it out of the park to wrap this bad boy up, and I'll talk to you soon, pal.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, guys, as Mike said, I'm heading down. I have spring break next week. I'm heading down to Myrtle Beach. I got a bunch of time. I plan on playing some golf. I plan on getting to the beach. I plan on, enjoying some time down there. So if you guys have any recommendations for courses, I'm trying to play the one course I really want to play is Tidewater Golf Club. I've heard great things. A friend of mine played it. It's not too far away from where I'm staying, so that's another big bonus for me. And I know everyone's always talking about you got to play Caledonia, you got to play True Blue. Caledonia is on my Mount Rushmore of golf courses. I love Caledonia. I've been lucky enough to play it a few times. It's terrific. It's all that it's cracked up to be. I'm just trying to spread the wealth a little bit more, and Tidewater's a little closer. Caledonia is in that South Myrtle Beach, down by Pawleys Island area. So, this is a little closer. Again, just trying to spread the wealth. So True Blue, Caledonia, I love them, but I'm trying to check out some different courses. Again, heard great things about Tidewater, and looking forward to that. But other ones that you got, throw them out at me. I know that there are dozens and dozens of golf courses down there. So if you have a suggestion on something, certainly DM us, hit us up, the drop_pod on Instagram, the drop golf podcast at gmail.com. Certainly, let me know where, some spots down in Myrtle Beach. And quite frankly, doesn't need to be just golf, right? If you got a brewery or a bar or some food or something that's a good spot, let me know that too, because I'm open to all of those things. And anything dog friendly is also up my alley, because the dog's coming with me. So yeah, let me know those things. I know Mike and I have different spring breaks, so we'll probably do the same for where Mike's going. But yeah, let me know where you guys got some suggestions for. And I'll certainly let you know on future pods where I got to play. We'll do some recaps of our spring breaks and whatnot. But that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to send it now to Ryan McCormick. Again, make sure you stay and listen. Again, just a New Jersey guy. Great interview. Enjoy. See you next week.
Dr. Mike Pomacala at Sports Solutions Physical Therapy and Performance Development is located in Middletown, New Jersey. A Titleist Performance Institute medical practitioner, Dr. Mike uses a hands-on approach with his clients to get them out of pain and back onto the golf course. No pain, no problem. Assessments are available for golfers looking to improve flexibility, power, strength, stability, and overall efficiency with their golf swing. Don't let dysfunction disrupt your swing. Schedule an evaluation with a TPI physical therapist and check out Dr. Mike at sportssolutionspt.com and on Instagram at sportssolutionspt. So today's guest, we're kicking it back old school here. We're coming back into the Garden State a little bit. Today's guest is Ryan McCormick, a Shore Conference alum, went to Modern Day when it was originally Modern Day and then eventually came to Modern Day Prep. Ryan led Modern Day to its first state sectional title in school history in golf, went on to St. John's University, where he won 3 times individually. He was also named first team All Big East 3 times. He also won the 2012 NJSGA State Amateur Champion. He's also currently on the Korn Ferry Tour where, we'll get into this, but he's off to a hot start in 2023. But I think the one thing Rye, that stands out more so to me when I was doing some digging on your background, and maybe that may be incorrect, but I'd love for it not to be, because I think it's crazy that you're the only player to have won the New Jersey State Amateur, the Met Amateur, and the New York City Amateur all in the same year. Is that still correct?
As far as I know, yeah. I haven't checked since my amateur days, but I was using that as kind of a resume builder to get into some big time amateur events back then. So as far as I know, that still stands.
Yeah, that's a pretty remarkable feat, if you ask me. I mean, that is a summer in itself in 2012.
I was very lucky.
I don't know. I don't know if it was luck. I don't know if it was luck because obviously, I recall some of your days back in high school, and obviously, I don't know your dad, but I know of him in terms of, your dad being a longtime head pro up there at Suburban. He was inducted to the New Jersey PGA Hall of Fame in 2020. He's won the New Jersey State Open. So, clearly there's a history there in terms of, your family, yourself, all being good golfers. So, maybe it's luck for Ryan or I, but for someone on your level, I think it's probably more skill.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, I certainly got off to a nice start in terms of golf being around my dad. For the first 8 or 9, 10 years of my life, he was a head pro at a place called Mount Tabor, which is up in Denville. And that's how I learned how to play the game up there. Is a 9-hole course. It's semi-private. And he used to hit balls in the winter downstairs in the living room. Used to put up a net, and I basically copied him. Him being lefty and me being righty, that's how I got started. So
Yeah, awesome. It's a great way to get started. There's no doubt about it.
Isn't that Phil's thing? Isn't Phil's dad a righty, but he would imitate him lefty? Am I correct in that story?
I don't know. You're probably right there.
I'm
think
pretty
that's
sure.
right.
I mean, I know that Phil is a scratch golfer righty and a pro golfer lefty. That I do also know. But I think he said he got his start by watching his dad and just mirroring his dad, but his dad was a righty, so he was doing it lefty. So the opposite. Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Phil's a incredibly talented guy. Wouldn't put anything past him. I'm sure that zero handicap is legit righty.
Yeah. So let's before we dive into the background of you, Ryan, kind of like where you are, like let's talk about the present because obviously, Ryan and I follow what goes on for Garden State golfers all over, whether it's local stuff, whether it's NJSGA stuff, and now with the Korn Ferry Tour, starting up and us following along, like obviously, I've communicated with you through Instagram, and when I see that you play well, listen, I'm probably one of the first people I see it, I send it out, I get it out there, but like starting 2023, I mean, you got to be stoked. I mean, 4 tournaments, 4 made cuts, 2 top 25s, and then you just come off your top 3, finish or T3 finish out there in Columbia, like you're number 19 on the Korn Ferry, point list. You got to be stoked at where things are at and where your game's at.
Yeah, it was a nice start. I worked really hard this off season to get ready for this year. Coming off of a disappointing end to the summer, just wanted to check off all the boxes and felt like I did a lot of that this winter, and so I was ready to go. And yeah, it's always nice to play the first 4 weekends. You don't want to travel internationally, be far from home, and miss a cut and not be able to get home. That's definitely not fun. So it was nice to get in the mix in Columbia. Always fun to be near the lead. That's a course that I've done well at 2 years in a row. Feels like home to me in terms of how the grass is out there. They've got a bunch of bent and Poe, and that's stuff I grew up playing in New Jersey. So just a kind of a familiar venue for me. So yeah, it was nice to get a good start off to the year and hope to keep building on it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I check and follow along, and I don't know, obviously, in terms of maybe you'd like to get a win, things of that nature, but like, getting 4 cuts made, finishing out, is one of the goals for you in terms of like when you look long term. I know the season's young out there, and I know you guys are heading down to Georgia, and then you got another international event coming up. Obviously, I don't know your schedule per se, but is the goal top 30 this year to finish on the Korn Ferry Tour point list?
I would love to play the tour. It's been a goal of mine my entire life, and that's why I'm doing this thing. But saying that, I don't know exactly how things are going to look next year. The PGA Tour is changing their schedule from the fall to the calendar year schedule, and I'm not sure how things are going to shake out for the Korn Ferry guys. But as it stands now and the way that it's been the last few years, if you were one of the guys, I would say from 15 to 25, you probably won't get in as many events as a guy who finishes 1 to 14 or 1 to 15. And not a lot of people know that. They have shrunk the amount of guys that are graduating from 50 effectively to just 30. They had 25 in the regular season and 25 in the Korn Ferry finals. And so the higher up that you finish, the better it's going to be, the easier that your start to the year is going to be. So look, I'd love to compete for that number one spot this year. I feel really comfortable playing with a lot of these guys and playing a lot of the same courses that we've played. So my game's in a great spot, and I hope that I can win not once, and hopefully just keep on building and see how it goes.
Yeah, I guess that type of stuff, I guess, when I dig into it, you obviously have a clear understanding in terms of the details of it, because I see top 30 and I think like, okay, everybody's going to get full status. Clearly, I'm inaccurate at that. So it's really what, like 1 through 14 gets full status, or it's not even that deep?
So technically everybody that graduates is a full-time PGA Tour member, but the Korn Ferry guys, like I said, as it stands, I don't know how this is going to change. And a lot of things have changed in the last year. But the last 3 or 4 years, I would say of the 50 guys that graduate, there's probably, I would say 5 or 6 fall events that the guys play, say maybe 6. And if you're one of those guys, towards the back half, towards the 20s, you may only play 4 events. And so it really is an opportunity game when it comes down to it. Everybody's really good at this level and at the PGA Tour level. And it's just how many opportunities can you give yourself? And, if you were one of those guys who graduates to the tour in 20, 21, up to 25, your opportunities are just more limited to start. Doesn't mean that guys have done it, and had great careers coming out of that, but you just kind of are a little short on the opportunity scale.
Right. I want to ask you about, Full Swing came out, and it's a nice dive into like the PGA Tour. I'm curious as to how competitive players are amongst each other on the Korn Ferry Tour. You see guys like JT and Jordan, and they're obviously buddy, but then they also talk about wanting to defeat each other, but they've already made it to that PGA Tour level. So not that there's not competition, but do you find that there's less friendships at the Korn Ferry Tour? Well, I don't know the right wording for it, but do you find that people are more locked in on the Korn Ferry Tour trying to get to that next level and being more about the business and less about buddiness?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's hyper competitive. It is I love it. I love the competition in anything, not just in golf. And so for me, it's an awesome environment. It's a little cutthroat, man. I mean, everybody's looking for an edge, and like I said, the difference every week is so small between all of us, and you're always looking for that little 1%. And everybody's chasing it. So yeah, it is hyper competitive. Guys do not like to share a lot of information because they feel like they have, a little bit of a secret and advantage. And I'm the same way, to be honest with you. I've got some close friends. Some of them have lost status in recent years. So a lot of these guys have grown up playing junior golf together. They play college golf together. These are all Americans, guys who play junior Ryder Cups, guys that play Walker Cups, some guys that have gotten to the PGA Tour and fallen off and are trying to get back. And, it's just like everybody is just trying to beat the hell out of each other every week, man. And it's awesome. I love it. But if you're not used to kind of that atmosphere, it can be a little jarring at first. So yeah, it's very competitive.
Yeah, I find that interesting, because not that the PGA pros won't be super competitive with one another, but they're already at the mountain. So it's a different, I imagine that it's different. I don't necessarily know good or bad or like levels up, but yeah, that's interesting to me that again, like you guys they might talk about how putts break on a certain hole, whereas it sounds like you guys on the Korn Ferry Tour, you're not going to be talking about that kind of stuff because you don't want to give up something that you think you might have found over someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example that happened in Colombia, and hopefully this guy isn't listening to this podcast. Either way, either way, he's a friend of mine. Doesn't matter. This 18th hole in Colombia is a par 5. It's almost like a 90-degree dogleg right, and the trees out there are like 100 feet tall. So it's kind of a crazy looking tee shot. And last year when I played, I noticed, and I'm not the first one to do this, but I noticed that you could kind of ship it right down like the 16th hole. Now it was like 150 yards offline, and it was right off the tee box. So if you're not careful, you might clip a branch, or if you don't get it up high enough, now you're completely screwed on another hole. But sometimes I like to take chances, especially on par 5s, and I thought it was worth the risk. So I played it down the 16th hole all week, and I'm hitting like driver wedge. And the tee shot just was a lot easier for me. Played well. We come to this year, and some guys had taken notice about what I did. And I'm playing the Pro-Am. I'm like 5 groups behind this guy. And I see him walking down the 16th hole from 18. And I'm like, man, if you're going to do that, you got to do it on Monday, Tuesday, when there's no officials around. They're not going to put internal OB out there. They're not going to see you. And this guy did it in the Pro-Am, and the rules official was like sitting there, and he was like not happy. I could tell from 200 yards away. Drove him back to the 18th fairway, shaking his head. And I'm like, well, there goes my little, sneak attack there. And little do you know, of course they put the tee in a spot. They move it up 20 yards so that you can't hit it through the trees down 16. And I'm like, man, I went up to him in the locker room. I'm like, thanks, dude. I appreciate that. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, man. So, it's just, it's stuff like that for me, where you're playing a course and you kind of have figured something out, and you do it when no one's around, and you don't say anything, because if anybody gets wind of it, the rules officials, they'll put up internal or all sorts of stuff. So that's one tiny example, but yeah, it is like that.
So, Ryan, they wouldn't do that though. I mean, the internal out of bounds, I guess the thing just has me kind of curious in terms of tournament golf. Like, that rule would be implemented prior to the start of the tournament. That's not something that they would implement, say, Friday or Saturday after seeing you guys do that, correct?
Right. Yeah. No, they'd have to do it before Thursday.
So that's why this guy screwed you by doing it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, you're a New Jersey guy. We're a couple New Jersey guys. We got guys that know guys. You give us a name and he doesn't.
Yeah.
I tell
from
everybody that,
Caddyshack. Well, he puts all his weight off his right foot. Cut his Achilles and push everything off to the left and never do it. Play golf again.
Listen, Ryan, if I get a DM from somebody saying who Ryan McCormick was talking about is me, I'll let you know. That's great. But so let's go back, I guess, to a little bit of the beginning here. When you think back to your high school days, you being a New Jersey kid, I know a lot of high school golfers listen to us. They talk to us through Instagram and different types of social media. And they're always, asking us questions to ask guys like you, especially when you grow up here in the Northeast. It can be cold. The conditions might not always be ideal compared to what some of the other high school kids experience, maybe down in Florida, Texas, California, things of that nature. But clearly you can make it because guys like yourself and Chris Goddard up and it looks like Jack Wall's on that line too. Like, guys can make it. Okay. You guys may be the exceptions, but there's a pathway. So when you think back to what high school golf was like for you, to then maybe why you chose St. John's to kind of stay in the Northeast, why don't you talk a little bit about your background in terms of high school golf into college golf?
Yeah, I was very lucky heading into high school. I had always played other sports, and at a certain point, you realize, hey, I'm not jumping high enough. I don't shoot good enough. I'm not running fast enough. And with my start in golf, I was certainly knew I had a nice head start and had some talent. And when I was deciding where to go to high school, golf was a huge part of that. And I was lucky in that one of the kids who I went to middle school with, his father was involved with Bam Hollow. And at the time, Mater Day was playing at Pine Brook out in Manalapan, which no hating on Pine Brook. It's a nice place. I played it, but not ideal. Certainly better places to play high school golf. And he was able to get the owners of Bam Hollow involved, and they got us out to play. That was our home course. So one of the reasons I went to Mater Day was that they were going to be playing at Bam Hollow, and so I wanted to play somewhere in high school where I could play. I knew I was going to play right away, and playing at a good course, Bam Hollow was a big piece of that. So throughout high school, I had to recruit my friends to be on the team. Otherwise, we weren't going to field the team because we were so bad my freshman year. I mean, we might have won one match. But I was able to get my buddies involved who played little to no golf. And I tell you what, it was such a great experience to get them into the game, have so much fun with them playing, to develop their games, and the camaraderie of team sports in high school was so much fun. I know you guys are both coaches in high school, and I really valued that experience being with those people after school, going to play golf. We'd play until dark, and didn't matter if they sucked or not. It was just about the experience of being out there and spending time with my friends. And as I started to get better, I had just played locally. And so I had a decent start in high school my freshman year, and played better my sophomore year. And I had just played New Jersey PGA junior events. I played some of the Met stuff. And I felt like at the time that I wanted to branch out and see how my game was, regionally and nationally. And I begged my dad to sign me up for this AGAGA preseason event where you could sign up and you didn't need any stars or whatever you need now. And it was up in New York in May, and I played well enough, and I won the golf tournament and was able to get into some national events and test my game. But I really built my game locally. I used to play the county course club championships in the summer. I mean, I played the Howell Park Club Championship. So it really started from junior golf, just continued to get a little bit better. And I never felt like I needed to play golf 12 months of the year. Played basketball in the winter, and I still think that's a good thing. I think it's okay to put the clubs down. Obviously, as a high school kid and going into high school, there were so many kids that kicked my ass as a junior getting into high school, and they never made it through high school because they got burnt out, whether it was their parents pushing them to play or whatever it was, but they never made it, and they flamed out. And so I always enjoyed playing golf in the spring, in the summer, little in the fall. But then I had fun, playing basketball in the winters. And so when I came back to play, it was so fresh, and I was so eager to play again. So for me, I love golf. I've always loved golf, but sometimes it was nice to get a break. And certainly in New Jersey, we don't have the climate of a Florida or Texas, but I never felt like I was at a disadvantage, unless I was playing a golf tournament in the winter. But other than that, I really felt like I could compete with people all over.
And then, obviously another stat I found about you that I thought was pretty impressive back when you were in high school was, you were the number one New Jersey junior golfer in the Polo Junior Golf and Golf Week rankings from August of 2008 through the spring of 2010. Obviously that is a longer stretch than I think a lot of people realize. Like, you're talking nearly 2 years of being the best guy here, which then obviously led to St. John's. And, you know, my question would be, like, you're clearly a stud at that point. Okay. Like, why St. John's?
Yeah, I visited a lot of other schools. I visited Louisville. I visited Notre Dame. I visited Penn State. Nobody like really incredible. I had a little bit of a hot summer in 2008 where, like I said, I had started playing these AJGAs because I qualified. And I remember playing Richter Park one year. I had just gotten my license in 2009. Richter Park's up in Danbury, Connecticut. And, I didn't have any money to get a hotel, or wasn't old enough to get a hotel at the time. And it was like 3.5 hours to drive up there. I drove up every day for every round, finished third in that event. And the Penn State coach was watching me. And to be totally honest with you, I would have probably gone to Notre Dame. I would have probably gone to Penn State. But when it came down to it, I went on the visit and did everything. And the coach called me back and said, "Hey, we're going to go with this other guy. Sorry." And so, it came down to basically Seton Hall, St. John's, and Louisville at the time. And I have grown up a diehard Seton Hall basketball fan my whole life, probably going to games since I was about 7 or 8. And it was really, really difficult to say no to Clay White, who was the coach at the time. But St. John's was an opportunity for me where they had kept a small team, and I've always valued getting play time. So when I went to Mater Dei, I knew, that I was going to play, and I was going to play in all the tournaments and all the matches. And when I went to St. John's, I knew I had a good chance of playing right away. And you just can't there's so much value in game experience. And so I knew that was going to happen for me there. They had a small team. All the guys lived together. I loved the camaraderie. They were very tight. All the alums that had recently graduated were around. Keegan Bradley at the time was starting to play well. He wasn't at the PGA Tour yet, but he was on that trajectory. And they played a fantastic schedule for a team from New York. We went to California, we went to Puerto Rico, we went to Florida. So, it was a chance to play a national schedule where we played a lot of different places across the country, and where I was going to play right away with a great group of guys. So that was largely in part why I went there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you and Mark Costanza crossed paths while you were there at St. John's, correct?
Oh, yeah. I played with Mark for 2 years, I think. And Mark was awesome. I know you guys had him on. He is one of the most talented guys I've ever played with. And he really helped me when I was a freshman and a sophomore there in helping develop some confidence in my game. Mark was a guy who had success at a really high level as a junior and had come back to St. John's kind of a little bit bruised, I think, from going to SMU and maybe not playing great. But, he plays down at Isleworth with a lot of great players, and there was a lot of tour players there at the time. And, Mark was somebody who saw some talent in me and really was influential in pushing me to get better. And, he was always, talking about what the guys were doing down in Florida over the winter, practicing. And he's just a great guy. And I won't be surprised when he plays the Masters soon, because it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we had Mark on, again, like, one of the things that he spoke about in terms of why he left SMU to go to St. John's was the coach, and was the camaraderie, and was the atmosphere that was there. So then obviously when I was doing my research and I saw that, I was like, man, these guys might have crossed paths. That kind of explains the why for guys like myself and Ryan that are thinking about, like, why did a kid like you end up there? But when things are so close knit and you can kind of not relive, but have that same type of group from high school to college, it makes it all worthwhile because those are the types of things I think that help us as individuals become more confident in our craft, to be more secure in things. And then when you got guys like Mark that are willing to take you underneath their wing a little bit, I think that's how guys flourish. I do.
Yeah, it was a great environment at St. John's. We had a coach who was very hands off and would let us kind of run the show. And so for me, it was awesome because I didn't need anybody to push me. I didn't need anybody to tell me when to practice and where to practice and how to practice. And he gave us basically the tools to get better. He gave us a different course to practice at every day. We didn't have a home course, which was a little strange looking back now, and we didn't have a place to really hit balls. But we would show up at a different course 5 days a week, get out of the car, hit a few putts, and go play. And we'd play some very, very competitive matches. And but I got a lot better because of it. And it was a great environment. When you had guys that wanted to play, that wanted to push each other, it was great for that. So I was fortunate that our coach, Frank Darby, he was awesome in kind of letting us, do our thing. He was not a golf, swing coach. He didn't want to get in the way of all of us, and basically was like, hey, you guys are really good. You have your own coaches. You've gotten here. You shoot some really good scores. He knows things, but he was like, you guys need to do your own thing. And it was awesome for me in that respect.
Yeah, that's great. So, I think some of the questions I always like to ask the guests, especially the guys that, are homegrown and Garden State guys, as we like to say, is, obviously our goal as golfers here in the Garden State is to travel the state, play golf, talk golf, and enjoy golf as much as we can. Is there like a certain course or an area or even a part of the state that you enjoy the most? Like maybe if you could give us like your favorite public course or favorite private course in New Jersey that may have stand out a little bit to you?
Yeah. I'll give you my favorite public course, my favorite private course, and I've got a great story that I've been waiting to tell, and it's a perfect platform here to tell it. My favorite private course is Baltusrol. I won the state amateur there in 2012 and played a few Carter Cups, which is a 36-hole junior event they have over the summer there, and it just always felt like heaven on earth to me. It was the best greens I played all year. It was such an awesome place to be. And I just loved playing there. I grew up playing a lot of public golf, but my dad, who's at Suburban, is a Tillinghast course, and so is Baltusrol. So it just felt awesome to play there. I felt like I could play well there. So that one will always be my favorite course. That's a private one in the state. My favorite public course is Charleston Springs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
let's
right.
go.
Look at him, he's clapping over.
I love it there.
Is it north or south?
So I'm terrible at this. All right. So north is the one where the first hole is a par 5, correct?
Yes.
My buddies, by the way, when I go home to New Jersey, we play the public courses all the time. So I usually try to play Charleston once a year.
As you should.
But yeah, no, it's an awesome place to play. It's usually, I felt like, in better shape than some of the other county courses. But back in, I want to say 2016, maybe 2017, I think, I had spent a few days with my coach, and he had this guy, Mark Sweeney, who is the founder of Aim Point, down for a clinic for a few days. And I was, I had no money at the time, no nothing. And he was like, hey, can you help us out with the clinic? So I did. And I had learned Aim Point before, but had kind of stopped doing it. It looked weird, just putting my fingers up. Everyone's looking at me funny. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I relearned it over a few days. And the next day I drove up and my buddies were like, let's play Charleston. We had an early tee time, and I found myself 10 under through 9.
Holy
And
shit.
so we get to 15, it's a par 5. Yeah, 15.
Is again north
And-
or south? I didn't get it. I didn't hear an answer.
Oh, sorry. It's north.
North.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
So we get to 15.
take a seat,
and I
Mikey.
have like 50 feet in the fringe, and this putt breaks like 4 ways, and I made it like dead center to get to 13 under on the round.
What? We're sniffing 59.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. And I didn't make any more birdies coming in, but I did shoot 59. And the best part of this whole thing is my friends, you know, it was awesome. And it was a cool experience to do it with them. But, you know, my buddies were like, hey, like, you know, we should go into the pro shop and tell them about this. They're like, this has got to be the course record, right? So I'm like, whatever, man. Like, I'm going to go to the car, like, go do that. So I go to the car, I come back, they're in the pro shop, and he comes out and he's like, yeah, the guy back there told me the assistant shot 56. So don't worry about it. It's definitely not the course record.
Get out of here. I don't believe that for a second. No way.
And I was like, man, that is something. And the way that he supposedly said it was so like matter of fact, like, oh yeah, like that's not even like close.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, there's a phone call in my future.
Well, we had the scorecard, and anyway, he was trying to give him the card and they wouldn't take it. So I am not trying to accuse anybody or this supposed assistant of not shooting 56, but I mean, that would be like the 4th or 5th best score in the history of the game.
Yeah.
And for it to happen at Charleston without me knowing would be probably unlikely. So yeah, kind of a funny story, but probably part of the reason why I left playing there. But yeah, it was a fun day.
Listen, there's no way someone shot 56 and nobody in the golf community has heard of that.
Right.
Don't believe it.
And I'll tell you what. Now we're gonna advertise it. We're gonna make a phone call. Yep, exactly.
I'm gonna call them and put them on the spot and say point blank, what is the low round ever on Charleston? Yeah, there's no 56, my ass. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's one of the funnier stories that's happened to me in golf, and you know, to happen at Charleston was with my buddies was even better.
I'll tell you what, I've shot 59 on the front there, so that's super impressive.
I honestly, I got to look back at the scorecard, but one of my buddies might have shot 59 on the front. It might have been 50 or something like that. It was hilarious.
That is, I mean, that's cooking. 10 under on the front is. Did you have any pars on the front, or are they all birdies and an eagle?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it could have been 9, could have been 8. It was one of those days, like I, you know, just blacked out, man.
I'm legit calling them right now.
Please enter your remote access code.
No one answered. I'm legit calling him.
Oh, you were calling. I thought you were calling Ryan to let him know he sent the link.
I'm calling Charleston. I'm calling Charleston because there's no way. There's no way some dude shot 56. Me being the golf fiend that I am, and you being stuck in Monmouth County, Ryan. There's no way we never, ever heard of that.
No.
No one's once ever said, like, oh, by the way, you know what the crazy stat is? A 56.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
like you said, that's top 5 scores in golf history.
Can you do me a favor, Ryan? If you legit have the scorecard, or your buddies have a scorecard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna DM you my cell phone number, and I want you to text me it when you get it, because I'm on a mission now. I'm out to prove these miserable people wrong that there's no way some dude shot 56.
Yeah, no, I have it on Instagram. It's one of my like posts archive. I just looked it up because I wanted to see if the front 9 was legit. It was 28. So my apologies on the 10 under. That was 28, 31,
How
59.
dare you lie to us like that?
Look,
you selfish son of a bitch. We're trying to run a quality podcast here. You're out here spreading lies.
That's incredible, dude. You're not shooting 56. What a complete lie. Did you do, like, buddy, I'm talking 18 holes.
Right, the pro there, I mean, they've never had
Who is he?
They've never had a pro like that there. That's not that kind of place.
Listen, some people sometimes.
Stop with this.
That's a crazy story, though. That's a crazy, crazy story.
And I'll tell you what, good on you. I'd have gotten fired up to be like, you know what? Like, nah, you guys can go in. I don't really care about it. Like 59, whatever. They can, you know, they don't need to know. Whatever. I can appreciate the humbleness of you come running out to me and saying, no, it's 56. I am attacking you. There is no chance that somebody beat that by 3 shots. And you're just going to casually like brush me off. Like, no, that's not even close. I mean, the way you said the story was like they acted like you said, hey, is 81 the record?
I know. Yeah, it was quite the afternoon.
Okay.
I'll tell you that. It was I definitely was a little heated after hearing that, no doubt. I mean, I was like cool with them going in, and then I was like, man, 56, huh?
You can't tell me you believe that.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It's probably not legit. Who knows though? I mean, you know, could have had a great assistant there that no one knew of that just played and then maybe left the area.
You're way more positive than I am about it, because no offense, us all being local to Shore Conference in Ocean and Monmouth County, we all would have heard of some dude putting up a 56.
You don't remember that summer that Tiger interned there in 2000?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Crazy.
So Ryan, we got Baltusrol as your favorite public, Charleston
private.
I'm sorry, you got Baltusrol as your favorite private, Charleston North rather as your favorite. You clearly got something for 2 courses, like 36 hole courses with Baltusrol having upper and lower there. Which one do you like? Is the lower course the one you were talking about at Balti?
Both of them are great. Yeah, I mean, probably have to go with the lower.
That's where you won. That's where you won, though, too, right? The lower.
It is, yeah.
So
yeah, we played both courses that week, but yeah, it was 18 holes upper, 18 holes lower, and then the last 36 were on the lower course, I think.
Like, do you find that there's a big difference in those?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they play it on the lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's
100%.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that it's definitely become easier and much more playable than the first bunch of times I played it. Because they've softened a lot of the slopes, specifically on the first like few holes. You used to have to hit it into the right rough on like the first 2 holes to hit the fairway. And now they've flattened it out. So I know they've done a lot of work on it. And I think Gil Hans has been there and all that. So I don't know what he's done.
So you got those 2. I mean, I would assume lower there is the play. And then Charleston North, again, Mike knows he likes the South course, and I keep telling him that he's not correct. Not that he just has a wrong opinion. So that's always good to know. We do like to end here with a couple questions here. As far as like, I think golfers are superstitious by nature, and whether it's like quirks or whether it's and I can see the smirk, so I know you know where I'm going. What are some things that you do on the course that are quirky or superstitious, or give us a little insight into pre-round, whatever you got, or during the round, whatever you got.
Yeah, we're gonna need another podcast for that. But
I can tell by his smirk.
I know, right? He started smiling right away.
He's like, oh God, I don't know if I have another 40 minutes right now for these guys to answer this one question.
I will say that I am known to some of my friends for doing a lot of unconventional stuff, whether it's during the round or pre-round or whatever. But I will say, of anything that I'm superstitious about, definitely like shirts. So if I play good in a shirt, stays in the rotation, and we maybe save that one for Sunday when we need it. We play bad in a shirt, that becomes a practice round shirt until we kind of feel like that's going to be, ready to go again.
Until it's got the juju back.
No doubt. Yeah. So definitely with the shirts, I've always been that way, I give a new shirt a chance, usually on a need it round. And if it does perform well, then we keep it in the rotation, and shirts that don't, we kind of throw them to the side for a little bit and bring them back later.
What about on the course? Like, we've heard so many weird things, and I can't even say weird because we're all different, but you're talking 2 tees in a pocket. Some people don't even lace them up before they go tee off. Like, I've tried to take everybody up on all their superstitions, and man, oh man, do they backfire on me. So I'm done listening to, no offense, what everybody tells me, because it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. There aren't too many on the course for me. Some guys like to use quarters with low numbers. So they'll use a quarter that's, 1970 or lower. I don't particularly subscribe to that one.
That seems oddly arbitrary. 1970, it's not their birthday. It's not, if you're doing it before you're born,
on the course, it's really more like the golf ball thing for me. So if I have a ball that's hit a cart path and hit some trees and it's pretty scuffed, but I'm playing good and I keep making birdies, that thing, I am riding that till the death.
Love that.
So
Love that.
I'll do that too, but only because I don't want to pay for more golf balls.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I have been down the Bryson-esque road of putting my balls in Epsom salt, and so I can just tell you that's in the back of my mind. If I have a ball that makes a lot of birdies, I keep that thing going because it's nice and balanced. So that's the only thing on course that I go with.
There you go.
And then Ryan, I don't know your hometown, but I know going to Mater Dei, I know where Mater Dei is, and I feel solid in this answer. There's a great debate in New Jersey: pork roll or Taylor ham. What do we got?
Yeah, it's Taylor ham for me.
Whoa.
Wow, there's a curveball.
That's the first one I've gotten wrong.
That's a curveball.
Yeah.
All right. So now, Rod, we've had a nice talk and you've ruined it now.
I need to preface this by saying I have been vegetarian for 8 years. So I'm out of the pork roll game for 8 years. Now, I have ate a lot of pork roll for a lifetime when I was a kid. We used to go every weekend to this one place, Sissy's, down in the Junction there in Middletown. But yeah, it was Taylor ham for me. Sorry.
Wow.
I specifically remember my mom ordering me Taylor ham and egg and no cheese because she doesn't do cheese. So I was that was my introduction, Taylor ham and egg. I remember that.
Is mom from North Jersey?
No, she's from Monmouth County. So yeah.
Here's our first curveball.
Yeah,
That's our first curveball.
I thought for sure, you're not on the border. The border is right by the Driscoll Bridge. Where you can kind of go. I can understand. Middletown's not very close to that, so I
That's like you making an 8 on the first hole and asking, "Can we go start over again?"
Yeah,
that is.
Wow.
So
are you heading down to Georgia? Is that the next stop?
We play in. Yeah, we have a long stretch here off, which is weird. We've got, I think it's another month until we play again.
Right. So end of March, I think I saw was Georgia, and then you're going international again, correct?
Yeah, Santiago, Chile.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That'll be exciting.
You playing both weeks?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would, most guys take a week or 2 off or plan their schedule out. I love competing. Like I said before, I would play every week if there was an event, to be totally honest with you. I wouldn't be able to sit at home and not play an event. I've not played one event in, the last 5 or 6 years of playing the Korn Ferry Tour. The last few have been as a member, but yeah, it's hard for me to sit at home. So I'll play wherever they send us.
There you go. Oh, listen, thanks again for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. And I know to a lot of people, we're kind of 2 outsiders, but, I think the more that people get to know us and see what we're about and what we're trying to do here, people realize that we're 2 guys that are all about golfing in the Garden State. So, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to pop on here and talk shop with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on, and, being from New Jersey is one of the things that I am most proud of, and I carry with me no matter where I'm playing all over the world. And so happy to come on with you guys and be with a couple proud New Jersey golfers. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and listen, after you win the club car down in what's that, in Georgia? Is that where we're off to next, right?
Yep.
Savannah?
Yep.
We'll bring you right back on. After that, we'll hear about the shirts and what shirt was hot and what shirt was not.
For sure.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, pal. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Yeah.